Everybody. Music, yeah, a little background ambience isn't going to hurt anyone. Okay, today we are all here to learn a little bit about music and its effects on the human body as it relates to traditional Chinese medicine, Qigong and Tai Chi. So, who here has a background in music? All right, this will help. Even if you took some, music classes when you were a kid, it will help. And, okay, there's a thing called Qi, Q-I or C-H-I, and up until recently it was pretty much voodoo. It wasn't really considered something of legitimate. It was more like, mystical stuff. But now I think we have become sophisticated enough in the Western science to actually measure it, use a higher, Carillion photography to photo it and to really see it. So, okay, congratulations, Qi exists. And that's a big piece because ultimately Qi is energy. And energy is basically emotion. So in motion, emotion, energy. And energy is a very powerful thing. And one of the things we have to understand is its effect on us. So in traditional Chinese medicine, they break down energy in really simple ways. And the simplest way is in this 5 elemental structure here. Okay? And so this is the first element we can say is earth element. All right, and I'm going to go through all this in detail. Then they said, oh, there's metal element. I know all of you can read Mandarin, so you're having no problem with this. And there's a water element, and then there's a wood element, and then there's fire element. Those are the 5 elements of traditional Chinese culture, traditional Chinese medicine, Taoism, and all of that. The Ayurvedic is slightly different. They use air and ether. Okay, and then they work their way into the fire, water, earth. They're wrong. No, they're not. But there's this argument all the time, and it's not true. One is before heaven, and the other is after heaven. In other words, one is before form, bringing it down from a wave to a particle, and the next is after form. So traditional Chinese medicine is concerned with, being alive. So it's based on form. So they actually work perfectly together. Really, the Ayurvedic is the source of the traditional Chinese medicine. And if you look, there's a guy right there named Dhammo or Bodhidharma on the little poster there. He's a Hindi who went over the mountains and trained the Chinese, the Shaolin specifically monks, and really taught them yoga. The muscle changing classics, bone marrow washing classics. And then, of course, they kind of weaponized it, turned it into martial arts, and here we go. But they're all the same. Qi, energy, and emotion. Now, what they have found is each vibration, each note, right, has a specific vibration. And each vibration is going to affect your emotion. So this is a key piece, and you will see it in music. So if you really, really had some serious, legal contract to read, and it's important because it's a $30 million deal, and you're going to focus. So you walk over and you pull out your old Black Sabbath album and you play Iron Man as loud as you can. Yeah. Is that going to create an environment conducive to focus? No, of course not. So music has a big impact on our psyche, our ability to focus, our musical state, our emotional state, and our energetic state. But if you had to, maybe a friend's coming over and you're going to hike up that mountain and they'll be there in 5 minutes, you might want to turn on the Black Sabbath album and get all psyched up. Probably most of you not personally meet either, but you get where I'm going. So you're all, yeah, let's do this. So you can use the energy of music to kind of pump you up. But in the wrong time, it could actually mess you up. And vice versa. You can play symphonic music and it'll create a better focus, and you can read through that patiently as you sip your tea, and your mind is going to be focused. So we intuitively already know that you can use music. Now, most of you were probably, unfortunately, around for the 60s, and you remember what we did with the music. Probably you don't remember it because you were in the 60s. And so, that was, again, using music to alter our mind. We're kind of seeing, oh wow, you can use music. Now, music belongs to the fourth chakra. Okay, yoga goes with the chakras. Has anybody heard of chakras before? Yeah, all right. There's in traditional Chinese medicine, we call them energy centers. Still the same properties, different words. So the fourth chakra is emotion, in motion. So the way you could affect someone's emotional impact is music. And they know this because they use it for soundtracks in movies, scores. The score of a movie you remember as well as the movie, right? Because we're all off to see the wizard. Remember that, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. So certain things you remember. Music is a very powerful way of entering the mind and basically igniting the spirit. So what we were taught is how to use music very deliberately. And there's a few ways. Has anybody heard of mantra? You know, Om Namah Shivaya and all that. That's a vibrating the different chakras. I am Roman Catholic, so of course I spent a lot of time in church singing. Yeah. Okay. Either way, it's the same. It's just a way of bringing in that emotional connection to the experience. So it's not just an intellectual experience or just a physical experience. You can unite the two with this chakra. Music, very powerful. We use it politically for propaganda. You know, we use it in many ways. You can weaponize music, which we have done, and you could also, of course, use it for healing. As a matter of fact, you know, we're talking about the ear that we can hear with, you know, but that's a really limited frequency, a limited band. But there's, you know, sonic, and they're using it now as a weapon, right? We got like people getting sick in different countries that are diplomats, and they're being attacked with vibration, right? So it's a really powerful thing. So we have to say, okay, this is music. Who here has been assaulted by a 19-year-old with a hat on sideways in a crappy little car with a big bass? And everything's vibrating in your car. Your little Hawaiian doll is vibrating, and there he is. It's like this crappy little car. He's got more money in his speakers, and he's literally violating you with the bass because he can't even hear it because the bass goes like this and then out. Do you hear it? You feel it. You feel the bass. So I think actually that should be illegal, and it's really horrible stuff. But anyways, it does affect you adversely on a cellular level. It is actually a violation. But we're ignorant, we don't know it as a mass. The collective consciousness is like 8 years old. So we don't know. So we have to understand that music is a powerful thing. And what they have found is different notes affect different emotions. Okay, so that's something to think about. So if we say this is a C, and we're using what they call a pentatonic scale. I'm not going to get all music-y on you. We're going to keep it simple. But the pentatonic scale is a really simple 5-note scale. Okay, the European is a different scale. It's a 12. You know, we're dealing with Pythagoras and the vibration and this. Okay, we're going to go pentatonic because that's also what indigenous, you know, cultures used. They didn't have white wigs and pianos. They had a stick and a flute. So we have C. You use that for, like, Native Americans use it, the Asians use it. It's all over the world, this basic 5-note theory. Now, the 5-note theory. C, in traditional Chinese medicine, the note vibrates and affects the spleen. That will activate when you hit a perfect C. Spleen activates. Spleen in traditional Chinese medicine is also affected by worry. So if you have a lifetime of high stress, high worry, high performance, then you usually die of pancreatic cancer. That's our good friend Aretha Franklin or whatever, right? Pancreatic cancer. Well, if you look at her life, probably wasn't easy. You know what I mean? She was an amazing human being, but a lot of juice probably left that human being. So the spleen qi is usually propensity for constant worry. Now, your grandmother told you you worry yourself sick. That's hurt your stomach, but that's a cute worry. That's just, oh God, am I going to get picked up for the big event? You worry. But if you do a career of worry, it goes from the hollow organ into the solid organ, and now we got a problem. disease works its way from the external to the internal of the body, according to Chinese medicine. So then we say a D is grief. So when you hit that D, that's grief. It affects the lungs. The lungs cope with grief. So when you have loss, a loved one dies or something, it affects your lungs. You want to cry, and you do cry. Grief and lungs are the same. And people that have a perpetual grief in their life usually have severe lung issues. Okay, COPD and all of these different stuff that's going to show up. A is water. Bing, you hit an A, that's going to vibrate kidneys. The kidneys belong to fear, because I could scare the piss out of you. Right? I mean, yeah, I know but it's true. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, it's like, if you really think about it, they looked at it for 3,000 to 5,000 years. This information, in my case, is coming from the Donghan Taoist clan. It's a Korean Taoist clan off the coast of Korea on this little unbelievably cold island. And so they, you know, just a lineage of just generation of, you know, a contemplation, observation, and meditation, just looking at nature and everything it has to teach you. There's trends to be found. And so the A belongs to fear. Okay? When we have an E, the E belongs to wood element. Wood element belongs to the liver. The liver belongs to rage. You know, the liver is the one that goes, and when you're about to just, that's what you do, and that's liver activity. The eyes also, you got to understand that each one of these, there's an organ, then there's a sense organ. Okay, so the liver and the eyes. That's why road rage happens mostly when you're traveling into the sun. You'll notice that. In Feng Shui, they say always live opposite of the sun. Never drive into the sun to go to work or come home from work, because it's going to end in some type of folly. So the eyes, you want to aggravate someone, just bring a little flashlight. Hey, Joe. Keep hitting them in the eyes with the flashlight. You son of a, they'll chase you down and beat you out. So there's the eyes, okay? And so the liver belongs to the eyes, and the note that affects and activates the liver is an E, okay? And then G, that's the heart. Now the heart is shock or excess, right? You can shock, you know, get so excited you trust, I won, and you drop dead of a heart attack, you know, because the $30 million, you just couldn't handle it. And so the heart belongs to the G. So what they have found is every experience that we have is recorded in your cellular memory. So it's like we have more than one mind. You think it's like, I'm just me. There's a lot of yous, meaning there's like your cellular memory, and each part of your body has its own intelligence. You're not mindfully digesting your submarine sandwich right now. It's just happening, right? So that's the you know, the nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. Guess what? That's you, but it's doing its own thing. So think about this: subconscious mind, subconscious mind. Subconsciously, we hold on to a lot of junk. You can call it baggage. So, you know, you go through the day and maybe you get here and shit, I left my keys in the car. Then you got to go back to the car and get the keys for the. So there was a little, and then you get there, all these little upsets and shock. Oh, it's flooded. And then fear, oh man, are they going to get here in time before the people come and fix it? And so you have this little unholy stimulation. And you know what? It stays there. And once it gets to a certain point, if it's not vented, then you basically wind up expressing it in the disease. Venting emotions is actually really, really healthy. That's why men die first, because they were taught not to. You know, it's just not what you do. Stiff upper lip, sit there, right? We all know it. And, you know, when I was a boy, all the men I knew were veterans of the Korean War and World War II. My dad, my uncles, and they'd just sit there on the porch. And what they went through and what was in their head would just blow your mind. They never said a word. Sure, they died young, so that all stays in you, okay? Unless, of course, you're Italian. You know, that's the one advantage. It just comes out, ha-ha! So it's like, I'm not going to ingest this. But you have to vent. But how do you vent in a healthy way? And so we do different things. We use notes and even sounds. There are specific sounds that you can make that allow you to, like, let's say, not be emotionally constipated. You let it out. So the C sound for the stomach is, that's how you deal with worry. You know, the D sound is, yes, emptying the lungs. The A sound, right, is the water, right? The wood sound is, the fire heart sound is. All these sounds we make when we're having these emotional experiences. We want to calm down, we'll go, and if we're really upset, we'll go, because that affects this. So each sound we do, we think we're just, we're doing that. No, that's deep in ancestral chi. That's in our DNA. And that's kind of how we cope. So sound is a very, very important thing. You can lose a lot of energy with sound. You got to be careful, especially, if you want to go through, we have like restoration, longevity, and cultivation. These are the 3 stages that you go through. Restore your biological age. You come in here, we take you through restoration. If you're 58, be 58. Don't be 67. The average person is at least 7 years older, biologically than they are chronologically. You got to fix that. Then we do longevity practices. So you can move every day until you basically drop dead. Then we do cultivation practices, which is really having the ability to cultivate tranquility, clarity, peace of mind. But you can't really have peace unless you have freedom. You can't have freedom unless you have strength. So we build strength, and then freedom of your own mind. And these are some of the tricks we use so you don't have a circus in your head, so that you can actually have peace. So we go through all of these processes, but big piece of a cultivation of tranquility and clarity to identify what they call the constant I amness is you got to go through at least once before you're in a box or a can, okay, before you're dead, 90 days of letting all this go. And one of the big things is no ears. In other words, you isolate yourself. And if you're going to hear something, it's nature. It's a hawk. It's wind in the trees. You're in nature. It's not traffic. They've already said urban living has a huge, huge adverse impact. We love the city. It's poison. And one of it is the sound. You drain your kidney chi. Your life force energy is actually drained or enhanced by sound. Sound is a bigger thing than you can imagine. So, I see people that live next to a highway. It's like you're really cut off from what's going on inside you, aren't you? If you can live in that hell and not be dying from it, then you don't even know you don't know. So as a little human being, we have to seal these senses because they're all thieves. What you look at with your eyes draws, creates commentary, burns energy. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, that's ugly. If it compels or repels you, it draws energy. So they want you to do, and what we teach, and what I've been fortunate enough to do a few times, is 90 days of solitude. And you guide and protect all of these organs so that you could get rid of it now. Because if you don't, you're going to bring it with you. You don't die and go to hell. You bring it with. And so the whole idea is you use this process to clear, let's say, the hard drive. So music is a very powerful tool. So when we go through this process, well, sure, we introduce you, okay, here's music. So you have an idea of the theory that there's a vibration that affects an organ, that affects an emotion. And it ultimately allows you to purge that emotion, so you don't carry it with you. Now, we're taught in the lineage, our lineage is warrior, scholar, sage. Those are the three. Jing, Qi, and Chen. Jing is the warrior, physically. Qi is a scholar. I understand, oh, this is the meridian, Hegu point, and this is acupuncture point here. Oh, heart one. Okay, that's a scholar. And then the sage is learning how to, meditate and create tranquility and clarity. One of the tools that we use is meditation and breath work. lengthening and strengthening the breath. Basic requirement that should take you 2.5 minutes to make one breath. Okay? So the way we do it is with the big flute. It's, and we play it, and it takes a lot of juice to get one note out of this primitive tool. And so we will use music, yes, for the lung, yeah, but also the vibration to mindfully get rid of the emotion. And so the little songs that we are taught are all the little 5 elemental songs. And you immediately start to purge. It's pretty simple, right? It can't be just some airy-fairy, feel the vibration, man. It's gotta be, tangible. So we talk about the vibration, we talk about the organs, we talk about the emotion. There's another thing, too, that we really need to consider, and that's timing. So, as a human being, what happens is as we age, the most important thing in your portfolio is you. You don't think about that. Certainly when you're building it and working on your retirement. You do all the stuff, you work a miserable job, you finally get your gold watch and pension, which doesn't even exist anymore for this generation, but you get it. And then you sit there in Sun City in a golf cart, and you realize that you can barely walk, you haven't shit in 2 days, you can't sleep, you can't stand. I mean, this is retirement, this is good. So the quality of your life is really dictated on the quality of the mind and body, and a quick indication of that quality is mobility. Okay, how can you, we do tests, get up and go tests, tug and go tests, all these tests. How long does it take you to get off the floor and start walking? They can do a calculation, and that'll determine how long you have left to live. And this isn't an Asian thing, this is Western medicine. Okay, so the get up and go. So you're supposed to be able to say, okay, I'm meditating, let's go, and you run. Not, okay, Joe, I'll get this, I'm up 1 minute. So your wealth is only as good as the health. So, but we're really a culture of material. So then all of a sudden you retire and it's like, oops, I forgot the most important part of my portfolio. That would be me. And they say, what do you mean you? Let's start off with mobility. Can you get up and go? How easy from high to low, back up to high. Can you do that with, grace? So now we say stability, mobility, and grace. And those are the things that go. So the stability is we do all the standing practices. So the body stands like a mountain. And we do the mobility so it flows like a river. You want stability and mobility. Stand like a mountain, flow like a river. As we age, we start to ratchet. It's a very sexy look. You start ratchet, And so when someone says, hey, Joe, you're all, yeah, right? And so what is that? That's a thing in the human body called the proprioceptors that helps you determine where your body is in space at any time. And that atrophies. It's like the amount of information going to your fingertip, it becomes a very, very, let's say, low pixel, low definition, very small amount of information. And we usually just jerk around and I'll get this, I'll get that. Because it's too much work to say, let me get that. I'm on my way. I mean, who's going to do that? No one does that. It's not practical. So you've got to use, we do Tai Chi. We do all of our little silly things. But really what I'm doing is sending a tremendous amount of information to every part of my body. And so that's one of the tricks. And here's the beauty. You do it in time. And when you do it in time, it has a huge impact on the neurogenesis, the development of your brain, firing the right, left, upper, lower, all simultaneously in opposite directions. So that is kind of like doing push-ups with your brain. Very important piece. And we use the music, because this is what I found. I've been teaching professionally since '87. Okay? And we've used music. Now, during the martial phase, we used big drum. I had, really, did you ever see the Chinese drums, the big taiko drums? And the sticks made out of waxwood, they're that thick. And you stand over it like this. And they're, and everyone's all, yeah! Because that's the harp. That's how they made soldiers run into battle and die, with a big drum. Bum, 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 bum. So if I got my big drum in here and I started that, you'd be all, you'd want to get up and do something. And that's just the truth. It's what it is. And so that's very basic way of using sound to, let's say, elevate spirit. And so that was a very beginning level. Then we use the flute and to calm and regulate. But that was usually for the internal practice, smooth and continuous practice. There's another piece here, and that is regulating. If you want to stop the loss of kidney chi, which is life force energy, you have to regulate your emotions. And the most effective way of regulating the emotions is through breath. If you regulate your breath, you will regulate your emotions. Your emotions are revealed in your breath. So if I say something you think is funny, you're all, good, you laugh. Your breath just told me you're having a good time. If I say something that's kind of lame, you're all, now your breath tells me I'm full of shit, right? So your breath is going to, and if I say something cute, you're all, oh. Yeah, so the breath will show you where a human being is. Well, you know what? If you want to regulate their emotional experience, regulate your breath. Because sometimes the emotions will get away. And we know this, right? We know, okay? You try, before you explode. We teach, I have a 3.5-year-old, and my wife taught him, Om Shanti. That's what he does. Om Shanti, and it's good, but I'm a human, I get upset too, and he tugs my leg, he says, say Om Shanti, Dad, and I'm like, oh, that's right, and so you have to go back and have the breath. So we use the breath, and we use timing. So if you want to regulate your emotions, regulate your breath, meaning inhale for 6 seconds, click, 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 exhale for 6 seconds. That in itself, to take the time in inhale and exhale in measured time, will emotionally balance whatever that emotion is. I need time to catch my breath. I need time to catch. That's what they mean, but we don't know. It's just kind of a wives' tale, something your grandma said. You don't understand the science behind it. You might even believe it, but it's limited because you don't know the tools. You just grab at it. Maybe it works, sometimes it doesn't. So what we have done is here in Zen Wellness, and this is Master Campbell and I and Master Jerry Dibble, is put together this concept more structured. Because with us, it was just a small group, and a prerequisite, again, for mastery is you have to know a certain amount of music. You have to be able to at least play the flute, and have that appreciation. You have to do calligraphy. Like I did that. You have to do calligraphy. You have to do these things. You have to know medicine. Otherwise, you're just some thug. So the gentleman or the warrior scholar sage needs to know the music, needs to know the art, needs to know the science, the philosophy. And that's a balanced piece. So I teaching seniors, and you look out there, you're trying to get everyone to do something, and you look out there and it's like Night of the Living Dead. I mean, everyone's whoa, how am I going to get this? So I had a moment when I realized that even if they can't do it perfectly and beautifully, if they do it in time, they'll improve. And it'll look better. It'll be easier for me to stand on the stage. Look at this nightmare. So we started to develop music specifically for practice. And it was built on 4/4 timing, 60 beats a minute, only using the pentatonic scale initially. And that's what allowed us to start. Here, I'll find one of the original pieces for you. And it really had a profound impact on, I wonder if this is it. Yeah. So this is a tempo block, and that's me playing a big fat flute. And these are specific notes. Okay, this one is actually, I'm pretty sure that's D. Okay, and you heard the droning. So this is already affecting the breathing. And then I'm using supporting D. So D belongs to metal. So I'm using earth, which is a C, before the D, and then the D created water, which is an A. So it's a combination of that, using the cycle of the tone. And so when I wrote it, it's really basic. And then I just sat there in my backyard with a tempo and then a bell. And then Jerry and these guys, they went to Berkeley, they're real musicians. They mixed it and did it all, digitally, you know. But what we found, so watch this. You come up, come down, gather, turn, set. So that's all done really, really dramatically and deliberately. And what that does is it puts you in time. So even if you're doing it poorly, but if it takes us, firstly, it's 60 beats a minute, which is the resting heart rate. So immediately we're going to resonate. By the time you're done, you're calm because you'll start to attune, time into it. And then I know that's now it's 4 seconds. 4 seconds. 4 seconds, and everything's moving simultaneously in opposite directions. Later, you actually walk. Everything is done in time. And so you move like that for an hour. And what happens is it's like setting your internal timing belt. And the amount of concentration, this is all turning, this is spiraling, hitting, on the root, hitting on the root, and it's not jerky, unconscious movement of your body, like a mariachi puppet. It's, no. Even every finger, the direction of even the index finger, the middle finger, there's a direct conscious alignment. Very important piece. Because then what you do is you take this brain that's really kind of pulling out of your body after 58, kind of bailing, and you bring it back in. And you become aware of all the surfaces, the body. And every movement. So when I'm standing like this, weight distribution, weight's on the heel to root, ball of the foot, push off the ball of the foot, sink into the heel, push off the ball. Even the weight distribution of not only side to side, but forward and back. Wait, big toe, little toe, heel. Every piece. What's the angle? What's the spiral? Every piece of the body, you kind of, what they call is turning the light around. In other words, consciousness turning back in on you. Our consciousness is outside of us, always. So the turn the light around, you start to be able to see the visible self. If you want to change your life, all of your main internal disease came from the invisible self, which is your mind. You talk about 3 sources of disease and death. One is the environment, sure, catch a cold, get a sunburn. Another one is the internal organ, which is worry, fear, grief, all the stuff. That's the emotional disease. Solid organs are brought on by chronic, decades of continuous emotional states. This just dropped to an A, because you can see that we kept a drone of an A underneath it. So if you basically get a chance to deal with, okay, this internal disease brought on by emotion. And then the physical movement helps your Wei Qi field immune system deal with exogenous pathogen, external environment. So you don't get as sick as often. And if you do get sick, you don't get as sick long. So learning how to control the breath, learning how to control, or even if you're not controlling the emotions, you're letting them go. So when you do this little set, this is 5 songs, and it'll take you 25 minutes. And not only you've just moved for 25 minutes in 4/4 timing, 60 beats a minute, completely setting your timing belt, if you will, and regulating your heart rate and your breath. So when I inhale on the bell, I exhale on the bell, inhale on the, it's all timed, linked up. So your physical body is moving based on the movement of the tempo block. Now the way we did it is, it wasn't like this. You sat there with the tempo block to teach, my grandmaster gave you the tempo block, and everyone rotated. So, you'd be on the block, he'd be on the bell, then when you're done, you get back in, she jumps in, gets on the bell, and you just kept the group going. But no one has any rhythm in this group, so I had to make my own. So, I was like, that would have been a disaster. You're on the bell, and you're all, so it's like a bad bass player, you can't have that. So we said, okay, then we'll kind of make that little false tempo for everyone, and here it is, put it in a box. And so, but really, this is the most basic. Then what we did is we took it a step further. Let's see, I have all kinds of them, don't I? And created, okay. So now this is going to be more symphonic, but it's still based on the same 4/4 timing, 60 beats a minute. There's still a bell in there if you hear it. And so now, so you do the whole set like that. And, you move. You're in positions. You're coming over the top. Coming down. Up. So it's, so your whole body goes through this dance, if you will. And we have found that, even if they're all doing it kind of bad, they're all turning, though, at the same time, poorly, but it looks good. And they feel good about it. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's a better emotional thing, and what we have found, too, is it's 5 minutes. It takes 3 minutes for the mind to sync up anyways. So if you want to learn something, you got to do repetitive for minimum 3 minutes to get past your own nervous system. So what we find, too, is a lot of them, it's like, okay, everybody, let's do this. And it looks easy, right? You guys do it. And at first, people are like, it's like young Frankenstein. Do you ever see that? Putting on the Ritz. I'm ready for someone to break out a top hat in the cave. It's bad. But after 3 minutes, even the most, they start to get it. It's that last 2 minutes where the nervous system gets a chance to catch up. So everything we do is 5-minute sets, 60 beats a minute, 4/4 timing, 1, 2, 3, bang, we change on the bell. And that made a huge difference in the rate of development and success. So that's a big piece. Then you take it a step further, it's like, okay, you can also sit and meditate. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And now you have someone helping coach you with your breath work. If 4 seconds isn't enough, what we usually do is you inhale for 4, hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Try it. Your energy will immediately hit the surface of your body. It's the quickest way. That's a 4-phase breathing that we teach. 4-phase breathing in time. Little story, I was on the lake with my crazy cousin a couple weeks ago, Lake Pleasant, 3 Mondays ago, and that thing came through, massive, monsoon. It was beautiful when we went, not even a breeze. We're on this little boat, and here it comes. I mean, it was a wall. And now all of a sudden, it went from hot to unbelievably wet and cold. The boat's going like this. We lost the top of it. I mean, it went bad. And I'm starting to get cold now. You know, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good, because look at how far the pier is. I'm going to be out here for another 20 minutes, ice cold and wet. So that means your kidney chi starts to leave, and it opens you up for this, sickness. So I was like, no. And I did my 4-phase breathing. And after about 3 breaths, my pores closed, my hair stood up, and I was warm. And I stayed warm. But I had to find my breath again. My cousin smoked a big fat joint. He found his breath too. So, but there's different ways, guys. Everyone's got their way. So, but my suggestion is you find your breath. And so these are like just practical stuff. You're on a boat on a lake. What does Tai Chi and Qigong have to do with it? A lot. Because I'm pretty sure if you're alive, you're breathing. And so that's, the idea. So when we do this music, that's basically the intention, is to use the timing, use the actual frequency of a vibration, and use what happens emotionally to your advantage. You'll also find you train longer. It's so much easier to do something for an hour if you're doing it in time than if you just go do that for an hour. As soon as you put your mind into the motion and the body, and the time's gone. It's like, having a good time. When you can drop into time, there's no time. So timing is everything. And so that's another one of the key things we have found. So we've spent the time developing all of this music. And, Master Campbell's the main guy. That's his bag. But we've been met with a tremendous amount of success. The music is basically free if you want to get it. It's not like this is a music pitch and sell it to your friends. No, I really don't care. It's a tool we use. But you can go on Amazon, pull up Jason Campbell, and there's the music, download it. Okay, it's really, really powerful stuff. You can pull mine up too. Mine's just a flute. Tai Chi flute. Yeah, Tai Chi flute, where he did, and everything you hear, he played all of it. He wrote it all and played it all. And that was his sister singing. But so they really put a tremendous amount of work so that we can have an environment where you can use the music and really, really take a big step forward. Really important piece. Questions? Before I move on. Nothing, all that, really, you got all that. Is there anything I said that you'd like me to clarify or expound upon? Wow, okay, great. Then let's try it. All right, we're going to do a seated meditation using the music. And here's the trick. Number 1, you got to get on the edge of your seat, because this is so exciting. But no, it's just so that your back is straight. So you get on the edge of the seats. You can just put your hands any way you'd like. Doesn't matter at this point. Really make sure you relax your shoulders. Try to lengthen and strengthen the spine. even posture. And what we're going to do is we're going to inhale until we hear the bell. Then you're going to hold the breath. And then when you hear the bell again, you'll exhale so you hear the bell. But you're not going to inhale until you hear the bell again. So it's called 4-phase breathing. Okay? And we'll just try about 2 or 3 hours. You're listening. And I'll use a basic bell. Let's see here. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh. Can you hear the bell clearly? Mm-hmm. Okay. Relax. Now you close the eyes just enough, they call it bamboo slits, just enough to let a little light in. Inhale. Hold the breath. Exhale. Leave the breath out. Inhale. Okay, slowly open your eyes. So that was a quick 5 minutes. And that's another way too, because sometimes it's hard for us to meditate. You know, sometimes, especially if you're beginning. So that's a very quick way. Just, okay, I'll just do one song. That's 5 minutes. Before you know it, you can do the whole album. That's 25 minutes. And a good thing about regulating the breath and regulating the brain, if you will, going from a very, very high speed, high frequency, dropping it down, the heat of the brain actually decreases. The size of the brain. We spend decades with a big old inflamed cotton ball stuffed in our skull. And that is a problem because then it's not really getting properly bathed by the cerebrospinal fluid. So by decreasing the size of the brain, it's really good for brain health. And they have found it's regulating breath and regulating meditation really kind of drops you down. So it's also, who here has a hard time sleeping? Anybody? Well, I got some good news for you. Sleep is bullshit. Okay? And because we're so hung up on sleeping, that we create a lot of anxiety around sleeping. It's important, of course, to sleep. But you know what? It's not as important as resting. So we assume when we sleep, it's, I can't get any rest. I haven't slept in a day. Well, even if you sleep a lot, most of us don't get rest. Because you never drop in. So all sleeping is unconscious meditation, and you're really bad at it. So all meditation is conscious sleeping. And so the more time you can spend taking these like cat naps, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, every few 2 hours. Oh, sit for 10 minutes, 2 hours. Especially as we age, it's very important to learn how to be able to just drop into a restful state, so that if you wake up at 3 in the morning, you're like shit. And it usually is 3 in the morning because that's there's a different consciousness, parts of the body starts to move around. So that 3 a.m. don't panic. That's your body saying you need to meditate because your sleep isn't deep enough. So just chill, don't freak out, and do your breath. Regulate your breath. Listen to this, do whatever you got to do. But that 20 minutes of really clean meditation is worth another 3 hours of sleep anyways. And how do you know? Well, they even sell devices you can put on your head that'll tell you what's going on with your brain waves. It's funny, it goes on your phone. And if your brain waves are too high and chaotic, a little bird chirps and says, uh-oh, and then you drop it down. So whatever, you could sit there and induce that state necessary for your body to rebuild itself. My teachers were, great grandmasters and all. They never slept, but they always slept. In other words, they were up 24 hours a day teaching us. We lived in a cult compound, an ashram or an anja. It was a Korean thing, and you sat there on the floor with your robe. And these guys were up always because there were so many of us to teach. And I wonder how they do it. But if you didn't engage with them, they'd turn off. They'd just turn off. So you'd be sitting there, or in the back seat, you're driving to the airport, he's off, you're talking, you look back there and he's just off. And that's, what are they doing? Well, they're resting, deep resting. And so, I don't know if you can pull that off, but who cares? Even by trying to meditate a little bit more, you're going to find the quality, the need to regenerate will start to drop. Your energy will start to come up. And if you wake up in the night and start dropping cortisol, stress hormones, because you can't sleep, you're not going to sleep anyways. So say, I see my body wants me to meditate. And so you either sit or lie, whatever you need to do, work on your breath, find your breath, lengthen and strengthen your breath, regulate, internal imagery. A lot of times, too, there's too much stuff in your head. They call it the mud forehead or the forehead screen. It's a crazy show, and each image creates an emotion, which dumps, again, chemicals. So then you got to say, no, I'm going to task the brain. I'm going to visualize a little ball coming up my spine and then rolling down my chest. That's the easiest one, just the golden chi ball. And so now at least if I'm going to have something in my head, it's deliberate. That's not going to rob me as much energy. So just using the little meditation technique can really save you and increase the quality of your life. using the music will really help if you're not that good at it. You know, it's like, wow, this is a nightmare. Well, good. Just use the music. It'll take you through it. It'll regulate it for you. It'll keep you on task. So we're going to have a concert. It's our Qigong Palooza. And Master Campbell's going to, Master Campbell will be here, set everything up, and you'll listen and you'll train with it, the live music. Has anybody, you know, live music? That's why it's good to like play music, because it's live. Feel it. So the live music, we'll have that going on. We'll take you through a lesson, and you'll go through the whole process. What were we going to tell them?
Oh, just the little, we have some more up here, but some of our guests have received a little coupon. So if they join that, we'll also give you the member price today if they do it today. They get a free week here.
Okay, great. So that's awesome. So if you try that, you can also have a week here to, you know, and you'll see when you go through the classes, we use the music and everything. So, okay, we got 2 minutes. Did anyone have questions? Yes?
When is this Palooza?
The Qigong Palooza?
Yes.
No idea. I'll be honest with you, I had no idea the lecture was today.
It's Saturday, September 15th.
Saturday, September 15th. I go with the I live in the now thing, you know. I'm serious. I walked in today, oh, your lecture's today. I'm like, okay. So, but that's okay. Any other questions? Yes?
How do we get your
You can download it.
on Amazon?
Yeah, Taiji flute, Michael Leone.
If you look up, if you Google Taiji, T-A-I-J-I flute, you'll get the one with the bell. And the other one, just look up Jason Campbell, and all of his albums will pop up.
Yeah.
The latest one?
Yeah, and he's gonna put 3 more on. He's prolific, he won't stop. He's got 3 more coming out in the fall, so.
Those 3.
Yeah, so there'll be a total of 5. Any other questions? Any other questions? You got it? Okay, well, I hope, you know, maybe 1 or 2 of these things will help change the quality of your life. I appreciate you showing up.
Thank you, sir.